In a world where power blinds and arrogance thrives, how long can a man stand above others before fate comes knocking? Some men believe that wealth and status grant them the right to look down on everyone else, that they are untouchable, immune to consequences. But history, and life itself, has a way of reminding us all, karma doesn't forget. It may take time. It may arrive when they least expect it. But justice always finds a way. Do you believe in karma? Do you believe that no matter how high someone climbs by stepping on others, there will come a day when the ground beneath them crumbles? This is the story of Jonathan Hayes, a man who thought he was above the rules, above morality, above people. A wealthy real estate mogul in Chicago, Jonathan wore his arrogance like a tailored suit. In his early 50s, with sharp blue eyes and a smirk that spoke of superiority, he ruled his world with an iron fist. To him, life was a game, and everyone else were just pawns to be moved, used, and discarded. But what Jonathan failed to realize is that pawns, when united and wise, can topple even the most powerful king. Standing in the shadows of his empire was Linda Hayes, his wife of 20 years. Once a brilliant young lawyer with dreams and ambitions, Linda had been silenced, trapped in the golden cage Jonathan built for her. He believed she was weak. He was wrong. Then there was Anita Patel, a bright, ambitious Indian immigrant who came to America chasing opportunity. Jonathan saw her not for her talent, but as another possession, a secretary turned mistress, caught in a web of manipulation. And finally, there's Sheriff Marcus Reed, the embodiment of justice. Silent but watchful, waiting for the day when the truth would surface. This isn't just a tale of betrayal, greed, or power. It's a story about how those who are underestimated can become the architects of a downfall. About how karma, though patient, never misses its mark. So, ask yourself. When a man builds his throne on arrogance and prejudice, how long before it all comes crashing down? Stay with me, because Jonathan Hayes is about to find out. Chicago. A cold, rainy afternoon. The kind of day when the sky feels heavier, as if it knows a storm is brewing inside more than just the clouds. Linda Hayes stepped through the grand entrance of her mansion, a house built with wealth, but void of warmth. She wasn't supposed to be home yet. But something, perhaps intuition sharpened by years of silent suffering, had guided her back early. And there it was. At the foot of the staircase, standing confidently in her silk robe, was Anita Patel, young, beautiful, and clearly comfortable in a place that wasn't hers. For a brief moment, Linda felt that familiar sting, not of surprise, but of bitter confirmation. This wasn't the first time. But something inside her knew, it would be the last. From across the room, Jonathan Hayes appeared, impeccably dressed as always, arrogance radiating from every step he took. His piercing eyes met Linda's, not with guilt, but with amusement. "You're home early, Linda," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "Forgot how to knock before entering your own house?" That smirk. That cold, dismissive tone, as if she were the intruder in a life she helped build. Linda stood tall, her eyes steady. For years, she had swallowed her pride, convincing herself that silence was strength. That enduring his affairs, his cruel words, and his condescension was somehow noble. But today, something shifted. "No, Jonathan," she replied calmly, her voice firmer than it had ever been. "I just stopped pretending this was a home worth knocking on." Anita shifted uncomfortably, sensing the tension, but Jonathan only chuckled, a low, condescending laugh that echoed through the marble halls. "Don't be dramatic, Linda. We both know your place. You enjoy the luxury, the status, all thanks to me." He gestured around the lavish room, as if every chandelier and polished floorboard was proof of her dependence. "Without me, you'd be nothing." It was a line he'd thrown at her countless times before. But today, it didn't land the same. Linda took a deep breath, her gaze unwavering. "You're right about one thing, Jonathan," she said, a faint smile playing at her lips. I've let you believe that for far too long." For the first time, Jonathan's smirk faltered, just slightly. He wasn't used to resistance, especially not from her. But Linda didn't need to yell. She didn't need tears. Because she had something far more powerful now: clarity. As the rain tapped against the windows like a ticking clock, Linda turned away, her heart surprisingly calm. Jonathan called after her, "Where do you think you're going?" Without looking back, Linda replied, "You'll find out soon enough." And in that moment, the man who thought he owned everything didn't realize he had just lost the one thing he could never buy back: his control. Because when arrogance blinds you, you never see karma coming. For years, Jonathan Hayes believed one simple truth: that Linda would never leave him. In his eyes, she wasn't a partner, nor a person with dreams or strength. She was just another possession. Like the mansion they lived in, the luxury cars parked outside, or the art pieces he displayed but never truly appreciated. Linda was part of his carefully curated image, the obedient wife who knew her place. And Jonathan, blinded by his own arrogance, never noticed the quiet rebellion growing behind Linda's calm demeanor. As Linda calmly folded her clothes into a suitcase, Jonathan stormed into the bedroom, his voice echoing off the high ceilings. "What do you think you're doing?" he barked, his face twisted in disbelief. Linda didn't flinch. She continued packing, each movement deliberate, not rushed, not emotional. That infuriated him more than any shouting match ever could. "Don't be ridiculous, Linda. You're not going anywhere," he sneered, grabbing the edge of the suitcase. "Without me, you're nothing. You live off my money, my success." There it was, the same weapon he had wielded over her for 2 decades, control through dependency. But Jonathan didn't realize that Linda had quietly reclaimed her power long before this moment. She wasn't just walking away from a marriage, she was walking towards justice. She straightened up, meeting his furious gaze with a calmness that unnerved him. "You still don't get it, do you?" she said softly, almost pitying him. "I stopped needing you a long time ago, Jonathan. I stayed because I was planning, carefully." Jonathan laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. "Planning? Please. You wouldn't last a week without the life I gave you." Linda allowed herself a small, knowing smile. "The life you gave me," she repeated, her voice steady. "No, Jonathan. It's the life I endured because I was watching. Learning. Gathering everything I need to make sure men like you finally face consequences." For the first time, a flicker of doubt crossed Jonathan's face. "What are you talking about?" he demanded, his tone less certain. Linda closed the suitcase and walked past him, pausing at the door. "You always thought I was too weak to fight back. But you forgot, I was a lawyer before I was your wife. And I've been documenting every dirty deal, every fraud, every crime you so carelessly committed because you thought no one could touch you." Jonathan's face paled. "You wouldn't dare." Linda turned to him one last time. "Oh, I would. Not just for me, but for everyone you've stepped on, insulted, and discarded like they were nothing." As she walked out, leaving Jonathan standing in stunned silence, one truth became clear. This wasn't just a woman leaving her husband. This was the beginning of his reckoning. Because when cracks appear in a foundation built on arrogance and abuse, it's only a matter of time before the whole empire collapses. And Jonathan Hayes was about to watch his world crumble, piece by piece. A week had passed since Linda walked out of the house she once called home. But she wasn't running. She wasn't hiding. She was strategizing. When Linda Hayes requested to meet Anita Patel, the young woman arrived guarded, her posture defensive, her eyes sharp with suspicion. She expected anger, accusations, maybe even a slap across the face. But Linda didn't come with rage. She came with a proposition. They sat across from each other in a quiet cafe, a neutral ground far from Jonathan's shadow. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence was heavy, not with hostility, but with unspoken truths both women now shared. Finally, Linda broke the silence. "You know exactly what kind of man Jonathan is," she began, her voice calm but laced with purpose. "To him, you're just temporary entertainment. When you're no longer exciting, he'll throw you away, just like he did with every woman before you, including me." Anita's jaw tightened. She wanted to deny it, to believe she was different. But deep down, she knew Linda was right. "Why are you telling me this?" Anita asked, her tone wary. Linda reached into her bag and slid a folder across the table. Inside, documents, bank statements, emails. Evidence of Jonathan's dirty empire, fraud, embezzlement, bribery. A lifetime of crimes hidden behind his polished smile. Anita flipped through the pages, her eyes widening with every revelation. "I thought I was just having an affair with a married man," Anita whispered, shaken. "I didn't know he was a criminal?" Linda finished for her. "Yes, he is. And you're not just his mistress, Anita. You're a pawn, like everyone else." Anita looked up, a mix of fear and realization washing over her. "So what do you want from me?" Linda leaned in, her voice steady, her gaze unwavering. "I want to bring him down. And I can't do it alone." For a long moment, Anita said nothing. Trust didn't come easily, especially between two women who, days ago, were rivals in a cruel game orchestrated by Jonathan. But now, they saw each other for what they truly were. Survivors of the same manipulation. "If we do this," Anita finally said, her voice firming, "we do it smart. I want him to feel powerless. Just like he made us feel." A small smile crept across Linda's face. "Exactly." And so, an unlikely alliance was born, not out of friendship, but out of a shared mission. To strip Jonathan Hayes of the one thing he valued more than money, more than women, more than power itself. His illusion of control. Two women, once enemies by design, now united by purpose. Because when those you underestimated come together, even the mightiest can fall. And Jonathan had no idea that the clock on his empire had just started ticking. Revenge wasn't about rage. It wasn't loud or reckless. It was calculated, patient, and above all, smart. Linda Hayes knew this better than anyone. Years ago, she had been a promising lawyer, sharp, methodical, unshakable in the courtroom. Jonathan thought he had buried that part of her beneath years of control and silence. But now, that sharp mind was his greatest threat. In the weeks that followed their secret meeting, Linda and Anita became a quiet storm, gathering strength behind closed doors. Every day, Anita would return to Jonathan's office, playing her role as the dutiful secretary and mistress, while silently collecting the pieces that would destroy him. "You need to be careful," Linda warned during one of their late-night strategy sessions. "Jonathan trusts no one. But he trusts his ego. Use that." Anita smirked. "He's too busy admiring himself to notice what's missing. Emails. Bank transfers. Confidential contracts." Anita had access to it all, and Linda knew exactly how to frame the evidence for maximum impact. But for Linda, this wasn't just about exposing financial crimes. Money could be replaced. Fines could be paid. She wanted the world to see who Jonathan Hayes truly was, a man who wore his tailored suits to mask the rot beneath. Why do men like Jonathan believe they can stand above everyone else? Linda mused one evening, staring at the growing pile of evidence. Just because of their skin color? Their bank accounts? Anita nodded solemnly. She'd heard Jonathan's offhand remarks, the subtle jabs at her heritage, the way he dismissed employees of color, always careful to smile in public but venomous behind closed doors. "Because no one has ever held them accountable," Anita replied. "They think power makes them untouchable." Linda's eyes hardened. Then it's time someone showed him otherwise. Piece by piece, they built their case, not just for the police, but for the public. Linda knew that true downfall didn't happen in silence. It happened when the mask was ripped away for everyone to see. A secret folder was sent to a journalist known for exposing corporate corruption. Another copy was prepared for law enforcement. But timing was everything. "We only get one shot at this," Linda reminded Anita. "When we move, it has to be decisive. No loopholes. No escape." Anita's response was confident, laced with a quiet fury. "Don't worry. I want him to feel every second of it." And so, they waited, watching Jonathan strut through his office, oblivious to the noose tightening around his empire. For years, Jonathan Hayes believed he was above consequences. Above people like Linda. Above people like Anita. But he forgot one simple truth. When the underestimated become united, even giants can be brought to their knees. And now, with wisdom guiding them and patience fueling their resolve, Linda and Anita were ready. Justice wasn't coming. It was already here, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. It was a Monday morning like any other, at least, that's what Jonathan Hayes believed. Striding through the marble-floored lobby of Hayes Corporation, he exuded the same arrogance that had defined him for decades. His tailored suit was impeccable, his smirk firmly in place. In the conference room, a group of employees sat stiffly as Jonathan launched into yet another one of his self-indulgent monologues. "Success," he declared, pacing like a king before his court, "isn't given. It's taken by those strong enough to rise above mediocrity." His eyes flicked toward a young black employee, lingering just a second too long, the subtle, cutting reminder of where Jonathan believed people like him belonged. "Some of us," Jonathan continued, "were born to lead. Others, well, they should know their place." A few nervous chuckles echoed in the room, the kind that came not from humor, but from fear. But before Jonathan could bask in his perceived superiority, the boardroom doors swung open with force. Sheriff Marcus Reed stepped in, flanked by 2 officers. His expression was calm, but his presence commanded attention. "Jonathan Hayes," the sheriff's voice rang out, steady and unwavering, "you are under arrest for financial fraud, money laundering, and workplace discrimination." For a heartbeat, silence gripped the room. Then Jonathan laughed, a deep, mocking sound that oozed disbelief. "Is this some kind of joke?" he scoffed, adjusting his cufflinks as if the accusation was beneath him. "I'm Jonathan Hayes. Do you have any idea who you're talking to?" The officers didn't flinch. Neither did Sheriff Reed. But someone else stepped forward, from behind the uniformed men. Linda Hayes. Dressed in simple elegance, her calm, composed demeanor contrasted sharply with Jonathan's growing agitation. Their eyes met, and for the first time, Jonathan saw something he never expected in his wife, Victory. "Oh, we know exactly who you are, Jonathan," Linda said, her voice clear and resolute. "And now, so will the rest of the world." The color drained from Jonathan's face as realization dawned. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a prank. This was Judgment Day. As the officers moved to cuff him, Jonathan's bravado crumbled. "Linda, wait, we can talk about this," he stammered, desperation replacing arrogance. But Linda simply watched, her gaze steady, not with malice, but with the quiet satisfaction of someone who knew that justice had finally caught up. The employees, once silent out of fear, now exchanged glances, some even allowing small, vindicated smiles to appear. Jonathan Hayes, the man who believed he was untouchable, was being led out through the very halls he once ruled. Because when you build your empire on exploitation, deceit, and prejudice, it's only a matter of time before justice knocks on your door. And this time, it wasn't knocking. It was tearing the whole house down. By noon, Jonathan Hayes' name was no longer associated with success or prestige. It was plastered across every news outlet, every headline screaming the same truth. Jonathan Hayes arrested, fraud, corruption, and workplace discrimination exposed. The image of him in handcuffs, his once proud face twisted in shock and humiliation, played on a loop across television screens and social media feeds. The man who once commanded boardrooms now stood as a symbol of downfall, a warning that no one, no matter how powerful, is beyond accountability. In the courtroom days later, Anita Patel took the stand. Calm, composed, and resolute, she spoke clearly as the key witness, detailing the inner workings of Jonathan's corrupt empire. She wasn't the scared secretary anymore. She was the voice of truth. Across the aisle sat Linda Hayes, the woman who had set this reckoning in motion. As the primary plaintiff, she watched with quiet strength as the walls Jonathan had built around his ego came crashing down. The verdict was swift. Jonathan's assets were frozen, his properties seized. Investors fled, partners disowned him, and those who once laughed at his cruel jokes now avoided his name like a curse. His reputation, once untouchable, was in ruins. His empire? Gone. His freedom? Hanging by a thread. As Jonathan was led out of the courtroom in chains, whispers filled the room. Not whispers of pity, but of vindication. The man who believed he was above the law, above morality, above decency. Now reduced to nothing more than a disgraced criminal. For years, Jonathan had lived by one belief. That power made him invincible. But true power isn't measured by wealth or fear. It's measured by integrity, respect, and the courage to stand against injustice. Jonathan Hayes had none of those. And so, when his hollow empire collapsed, there was nothing left to hold him up. Just a man, stripped of everything he thought defined him, finally forced to face the consequences he never believed would come. Because when karma arrives, it doesn't knock twice. It takes everything. As the courtroom doors closed behind Jonathan Hayes, sealing his fate, Linda turned to Anita Patel, the woman who once walked proudly through her home, flaunting her affair with Linda's husband as if she had won some cruel game. Linda's voice was calm, but carried a weight of truth. He always said that without him, we'd be nothing. But in the end, he was the one who couldn't survive without crushing others beneath him. Anita forced a faint smile, but it lacked the confidence she once wore so easily. Because deep down, she knew, even though she stood on the side of justice today, karma wasn't done with her yet. The headlines didn't just expose Jonathan. They exposed Anita Patel too, the mistress who had once so openly played her part in his betrayal. Though she was hailed as the key witness, the public didn't forget the woman who had willingly stepped into a marriage and helped tear it apart. The bright career Anita once dreamed of? Gone. No company wanted to be associated with a name tied to scandal, no matter how much truth she spoke in court. Linda saw it clearly, and she knew this was the price Anita had to pay. Anita lowered her gaze, whispering almost to herself. Karma never forgets, not even for me. Linda nodded, not with bitterness, but with honesty. That's right. Karma is fair. It doesn't just punish those who cause pain, but also those who choose to stand by and benefit from it. Then, placing a gentle hand on Anita's shoulder, she added. But the difference is, you still have a chance to rebuild. Use your second chance wisely. Anita looked up, her eyes no longer reflecting arrogance, but the understanding that every choice comes with a cost. And so, the two women, one who reclaimed her strength, and one who learned the hard price of complicity, walked out of the courthouse, carrying lessons that would stay with them forever. The story had ended, but karma never truly rests. It lingers, watching every decision we make. So, if you ever believe that mistakes can simply fade away, remember this: karma never misses anyone. If this story touched you, it's because deep down, we all believe in one simple truth: justice finds a way. Have you ever crossed paths with someone like Jonathan Hayes? Someone who believed they were untouchable, using power, money, or manipulation to step on others? How did it end? Or, Are you still waiting for karma to knock on their door? We want to hear your story. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below, because stories like these remind us that no one is truly alone in facing injustice. And if you believe that truth, integrity, and courage will always triumph in the end, don't keep this message to yourself. Share this video with friends and family. You never know who might need this reminder today. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful moral stories, real-life lessons, and inspiring tales where life teaches us that every action has consequences. Because sometimes, all it takes is one story to open someone's eyes. And karma? It just might be watching.